Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sam Popple, along with my co-host, William McClellan. What's going on, Will?
Not much, man. Not much. My favorite day of the week. Just ready to get into it.
Nah, dude, we got a great guest today. So today we're going to bring on a guest, Mike Ruiz. So Mike was referred, given, or his name was given to us by our previous guest, Albert. Mike was a speaker at his meetup. The thing I really like about Mike is his story. I think is very relatable to many people. That he was an active duty military member. He's a family man. He's been on 8 deployments and was almost, on those 8 deployments, he was away from his family for almost 3 years, but has still been able to have a successful marriage. Been married over 20 years, has 2 children, one in nursing school and one about to graduate high school. So that's a whole other challenge. And then in the meantime, he still has been able to acquire 5 homes, taking full advantage of the VA and everything it has to offer. So and I've left out, he's a commercial pilot and currently a flight instructor as a contractor. So this guy's doing a lot, and he's doing a lot well. He's doing a full-time job and still be able to be an active real estate investor. So without further ado, let's bring on Mike Ruiz so he can tell us all how he accomplished this.
Hey, thanks, guys. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. Well, no, we're definitely excited to hear your story. Like I said, you came out. We were told by Albert that you had a great story to share, and then just from talking to you, I think that you're gonna be able to relate to a lot of people because you love your day job. Like most people that follow these real estate podcasts, they're trying to figure out the escape. Like, how can I get out of the rat race? How can I leave that job that I hate? But you told me you love your job. You love flying. You're just really trying to build up a retirement that's a little bit better than the military pension or a 401k. And so now let's dive right into that, and I'll let Will go ahead and start everything off.
Yeah, man. First off, thanks for your service and everything you've done. Really great to have you on the podcast. And like Sam said, this is something that will be relatable to a lot of people, but then also you have a cool job. So I definitely see why you like it. But getting into the job, tell us a little bit about life before real estate and what childhood was like for you, like where you grew up, if you went to college or how you got to the military, and just a little bit about you, Mike.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. That's until I was about 19. After high school, I saved up money and I paid for my first year of tuition and didn't go. I just blew it all away. But that lasted for about 8 months till my dad was like, hey, you can't just sit here and sleep in all day. So a friend of mine joined the military and I saw that it worked out well for her. So that's when I decided to enlist in the Air Force. And when I came in, I was an avionics guy, so avionics technician. So I started off working as a aircraft maintainer on bigger planes, C-130s and C-17s. And I did that for about 9 years until while I was a mechanic, I was afforded opportunity to start flying as a mechanic on C-17s. And I got to see just how the air crew kind of work and how the pilots, and I can say this because I'm one of them, they weren't that smart. So I was like, I think I could do that too. So I put a package in, I got my 4-year degree, took some flight lessons and I put a package in and they're working out. And then after commissioning in 2010, so about 9 years enlisted, got my first aircraft, and it's been the one that I've had ever since. Was a U-28 after flight school at Pensacola. I ended up dropping U-28s, which is the aircraft that I've been flying ever since. So it's a small reconnaissance plane that we fly out of Hurlburt Field, which is like in the panhandle of Florida. And I've been doing that for about 12 years. So I did retire from the military in 2022 as a major. And then for the last 2 years, I've just been doing full-time flight instruction contract work for the government still. So I'm in a very unique opportunity where I still get to fly the same plane that I did when I was in the military, although I'm doing it as a government contractor. So it's a very unique position, and like Sam said, I really do love the job, and probably equally as much, more so. I love the people that I work with. They're typically motivated, they're studious. They say they're going to do something, they're going to do something, they're going to do it. So I can say that when I finally do leave this place, I know how fortunate I will have been, because I do work with some good people, and I'm just blessed to be here, really. So,
man, shout out to all those coworkers. I hope they're listening to this episode and hear how much you're talking them up. But man, I mean, I can definitely hear your passion, in what you do, and I mean that really, congratulations, first off on retiring as a major. That's amazing. Was there anyone kind of early on that, like how'd you get to the first house? Like what did where was that first house at?
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of glossed over that. So whenever I was my first duty station was at Little Rock Air Force Base. So for those who aren't familiar, like after you enlist in the military, you go through a couple months of a technical school to learn your job. And so I went through an avionics school for about 6 months. And then I went to my first base at Little Rock Air Force Base, which is where I met my wife. She was actually in the military also. And this is an important piece as we start talking to the VA stuff, that she was in also. She eventually separated, but it's an important piece, which we'll get to here in a second. But she was in, and she was in the communication squadron there. And then, she, I don't know, she ran out of choices or something. And she said yes when I asked her to marry me. So, but while we were there, we got married, and we were looking around for places to rent, and we just didn't like what we saw. And we were just like, well, why don't we just buy something? And that's when we bought our very first home there, which was what we could afford. Whenever I came in, just to note too, whenever I came in as an E1, which is, in the Air Force, there's like 19 pay scales, and like 9 of them are listed and 10 of them are officer. It's like 10 being a 4-star general. It was very top. Mm-hmm. I was at the very absolute bottom, which I don't think anyone even comes in as an E1 anymore. But I point that to note that, when I bought the house, I was an E3. I think it was an A1C at that point. But even so, as a low-ranking guy, we were still able to buy the house, because the military does give you that base housing allowance, which that obviously helps pay for the mortgage. So that's how we got into it. Was we used my VA loan, my VA entitlements at the time, to buy a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car, 1,400 square foot house that was about 4 miles from the front gate. So something that was just the standard, close by the base, and something that we could afford. I remember we paid $99,000 for the house. Imagine you getting that now. You just can't get that. Right. So that's kind of how it started.
Okay, cool. Was there anyone that kind of inspired you to get it, or it was just kind of like a need of necessity? You guys needed a home, and it was a better deal to buy than rent.
Like a lot of things in my life, it's just been dumb luck. Yeah, it's kind of been just a necessity. Well, this seemed to make sense. Why would I pay $800 for this not that great house, or I can buy it and pay $700 for the mortgage, whatever it was at the time.
Right.
So that's how it worked.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about that transition. I know you said there was a very important piece that your wife was also in the military, and then kind of rolling into, going from 1 to 5. That's a pretty big scale.
Yeah. So the way it kind of worked out was, after we left Little Rock, which we weren't there for too much longer after that. I came up on my time at the base, so they had to make me move. So we ended up moving to Charleston, South Carolina. That was our next stop. And we love that place. We were really glad. We liked Little Rock. So we met there, and we actually liked the town. And Charleston, we ended up loving. So what we did was we just kept the house at Little Rock, and we just rented it out. And then we PCS or moved to Charleston, which is where we initially didn't know where to go. So we rented for about the first year. And then we bought our second home using, at this point, I believe it was my remaining VA entitlements. So that's how we were able to get into the second home with zero down. So this is the whole point of the military guys and gals is using this. You're getting into the deal with zero down, and you're not paying the PMI, partial mortgage insurance, I believe is what it stands for. But basically, where lenders will charge you a fee if you're not at least 20% equity into the loan. So because we're not putting anything down, the VA is backing us up on the loan. We're not paying that PMI. So that's how we were able to get into our second home at Charleston, doing that. And then after we left there, so we were there for a few years. That's whenever I started to fly and and I got commissioned or got accepted to go to commissioning school. So I left there, went to Pensacola here in Florida, and did flight training here at NES Pensacola. And once again, we kept the house in Charleston and rented that out. You can see where this is just kind of snowballing here, right?
And I'm just gonna pause because I've kind of you mentioned a little bit of luck. I think luck was a little on your side in terms of where you were landing, because like the first two states you mentioned are very good rental states. I don't know a whole lot about each of them on an individual basis, but I know when you look at which states are good to invest in, you often see Arkansas at like the top of the list. It's a very conservative state, great landlord state, and then South Carolina is pretty well on there too. So I just as you're telling me this, I'm like, man, he's like landing in red states, great to rent.
Yeah. Plus like hyper appreciation with everything that happened with COVID with Charleston, it just exploded. So I know that's been a major win.
Yeah, it did. Well, so I don't have those houses anymore, and I did sell one.
Sorry about that.
I did sell one prior to the Arkansas house. Did get sold prior to the whole COVID boom, but it still helped out. Which I'll explain how we were able to kind of snowball it after that.
Yeah.
It still ended up working out for me. So after we left Charleston, we came to Pensacola. Flight school was pretty rigorous for me, and just juggling, family life that we didn't buy there. We knew we were only going to be there for a year or so, and then we knew that we were going to be moving, which I just ended up having to get stationed 40 miles away to Hurlbur Field. So then we moved here, and we bought a house once we got here, and then and this is kind of goes into the whole VA intent and how you can use it, right? So we moved into a 3-bed, once again, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage house. We're buying the same.
There's a formula you're going for.
What's that?
I said there's clearly a formula, like
exactly,
a good family home.
Yeah, and that's part of this is, hey, we're not keeping up with the Joneses, right? We're trying to build something here, right? Taking advantage of the VA and just to build something. So we bought another 3-bed, 2-bath house, and we lived in it for a little bit until by this point my kids are starting to become teenagers, and we need a bigger house. So we moved into a 4-bedroom, which is what we're in now, a little bit bigger house because they were getting bigger. So once again, using VA entitlements to purchase each one of these. So if you remember what I said at the beginning, my wife was military at the time. So she had already separated once we were at Charleston. She did 5 years and got out. However, she still keeps those VA entitlements. And this is where really the strength of if you have one VA entitlement, it's great because you can still use your entitlements across multiple houses until you run out. And even if you do run out of the entitlements, you can still get into a deal as long as you're willing to put some money down, which we can talk about later. But because we were mill to mill, or we had 2 VA loans, we basically had double the entitlements, which allowed us to buy double the amount without having to put anything down, without having to use any PMI. So once we moved into the 4-bedroom, you thought I would have been smart enough to keep that 3-bed, 2-bath and just rent it out again. Instead, I kind of took a detour and I used that money to put into a syndication. So I'm a partial investor in an 86 unit over in Greenboro, South Carolina. So we have some money in the syndication there as well. But anyway, so during this time, I'm still doing a long distance landlording. I got a house in Arkansas and a house in South Carolina.
Were you managing those yourself too?
Yeah. So the one in Arkansas, a little bit of luck in that I was able to get some good tenants each time when they were there, and I was able to do it myself. South Carolina, it was a little bit more fluid. I did have to hire a property manager for a little bit, and then I realized, I just don't like. Maybe it's just greedy, or because I just like the communication with the tenants, and I have a great relationship with all my tenants. But I eventually got rid of the property manager, and I managed it myself. So, and even now with the 5 that we have, I continue to manage it myself. So,
Awesome.
yeah. So eventually I was like, I want to be closer to the properties. So this is where I started at 1031, and this is where I really started to double up at this point. So the house in Arkansas had appreciated a pretty good amount, and I had done a little bit of light renovations. So I was like, you know what? I want to get something that's in this area. I knew Florida was appreciating even more so than Arkansas. So I was like, I want something that's going to be close by. So I sold that house, and I did a 1031 exchange to buy 2 properties here locally, 2 single family homes. So basically exchanged 1 single family home for 2. And once again, I didn't put anything down. I used all the proceeds to put the down payments for both of them. And really the only thing I came out of pocket for was both of the houses did require some light renovations. We did some flooring in one. I think we renovated, we did some paint in another, renovated a bathroom in another. So we did come out of the pocket. We used our own capital for that. But then immediately from what we were cash flowing from the one house in Arkansas, we were, cash flowing almost double with the 2 that were here.
Curious, because that's one of the times I haven't heard of it going to 1031 going into 2 properties. Were you buying those 2 properties like together as like one transaction, or were those two separate transactions, but you were still able to roll it with the 1031?
No, that's a good question. No, you can buy. I bought them at the not in a package deal, but as long as you meet the time restraints on the 1031 exchange. And for those who aren't familiar with it, it's basically an IRS rule 1031, where basically you can use your capital gains from the sale of one property to purchase a like kind property. So whether that be, I sold a single family home, I could have bought, in this case, I bought 2 single family homes. I could have bought a commercial piece of real estate. I could have bought land. But anyway, so you just can't touch the money. That's the whole thing. And there's some constraints. You have to use a qualified intermediary, which is a guy I used locally, Jared Bradley. And you have to pick out your property or properties within 45 days. And then you have to close within 6 months, 180 days of the sale of your previous property. So as soon as it's kind of a leap of faith, man, like on that seller's sheet, when you close, you come to the closing table, normally you sell a house or sell a property, you're used to seeing your name at the side with the proceeds of whatever it is to you. Instead, it's not your name there. It's your qualified intermediary, because he or she has to be the one who takes all the money, right, and you kind of sit on the sidelines. As soon as it touches you, then you have to pay the taxes on it. So, yeah,
that's great. And I wanted to just highlight something that, you said that I fully believe in, but I want to make sure no one missed it. So you mentioned that you weren't worried about keeping up with the Joneses while you were buying these houses. Which, man, that is one of the biggest, I'd say probably one of the biggest tips. Like I tell people, that ask me that, hey, I'm looking at buying my first house. What would you do, Sam? I always tell them, like, hey, whatever you qualify for, buy a little less than that. Like if you qualify to buy, a $500,000 home, if you want to keep buying houses, buy one that's about $350,000.
Yeah.
Because if you just buy it a little bit, under, you can then probably by the next year be almost qualified to buy another home equal to the last one you got, maybe a little better, and it just lets you roll more. But I think that was a very important note, is that when your goal is to kind of build a portfolio, you don't need to worry about getting the dream home with the first house, that'll come in time. So then the one other tip, which, is just something I observed is, pick your spouse wisely, because if you can pick a spouse that has VA benefits, that can go a long way. So, I think that's a key element of this story is that,
jokingly, I said that at the last meetup, whenever I spoke, I was like, rule tip number 1, they were thinking I was going to say something profound. And it was like, marry someone in the military, but No, I picked to say she is way better than I am, and luckily, I mean, she's on board with exactly what we're talking about, and she's here to build something in the long game, and she's not here. She understands that this isn't going to be our dream home yet throughout this past few years, so
Right.
she understands that, so she's on board.
Nah, dude, I think that's awesome. I mean, it's so important to have the right partner on your team, and I mean, it sounds like you and your wife are definitely aligned on where you need to be in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to follow on with that, there's a coworker of mine that, I remember a few years ago, he did exactly what you said. He bought the 5-bed, 4-bath. It's like a 4-car garage. It's on the. I mean, it is a gorgeous house. It's
right.
Gorgeous, right? But in would his situation work in what we're trying to do? Absolutely not. Like if he was to move, I mean, how much would he be able to rent that thing out for? I mean, maybe if he's doing a short term, maybe he could get some of that money back, but. He's definitely not going to play it as a long-term rent.
No, there's definitely a magical number in every area where the rent to cost ratio is.
Right.
And that's something that, just kind of general knowledge for everybody listening that, the higher the luxury of the property, it's not, you aren't buying those ones for cash flow. Like, luxury properties don't usually cash flow as long-term rentals. They're generally appreciation plays. But like, you go a little bit to the more middle of the way, or even if you tend to the other spectrum and go to say like, what people refer to as class C or maybe like the lower class ones, those cash flow greats, like usually those
right.
where you hear about the 1% rule, 2% rule, and stuff, but they also, maybe don't really appreciate as well. So there's kind of like a happy medium, somewhere in the middle, which I think you're nailing on the, those 3-bed, 2-bath, family style homes. I mean, those are the ones that, usually just steady see appreciation.
Yeah. And I mean, they're just the easiest. They're going to be the largest market that you're going to be able to market to for renters. And every place that we've been at, or every house that we've bought, and every base, it's always been with, a close radius of the base because, well, number one, because I didn't want my commute to be far, but
Sure.
Also because I knew that my market, whenever we moved in 3 to 4 years, whatever it was going to be easy to get another military couple, in there, or military family in there, whoever it was.
Right.
So even the 5 that we have right now, they're all close to the base, and I mean, they're all military that are in there. All 5 of them are in there. And even this house that I'm speaking to you from right now, I'll be moving to South Florida here in a few months. This one will be our next rental, and I am 3.1 miles from the front gate of Hoover Field. Like this will be the next one. So
nice.
You can see where my strategy is.
Yeah, definitely.
So with all of that, tell us a little bit more about life today. You just kind of let all the listeners know you're going to be moving to South Florida coming up soon. I know that you love your job, so I'm interested to hear on that. And then with those 5 coming on, I guess to be 6, what are your investments in real estate looking like right now, and what's the trajectory next?
Yeah, so the next move will be so just to back it up, I did actually do it one more time, the 1031, and I was able to sell the house in South Carolina, brought this here. Well, with one of the houses that we ended up buying, the equity has gone up quite a bit in it. And right now we're just not getting the return on equity that we should. The cash flow is great. It's a safe bet. It's a renovated place, and, I have no problems getting it rented. However, I could get more cash flow with it. So I'm going to sell it, and you can see the recipe here. I'm going to 1031 it and then buy something larger. Hopefully with the amount that I get, I'm not quite sure if I want to go into something like a commercial property, or residential, or multiple residential, or I even flirted with the idea of maybe something self-storage or something like that, getting into something like that. But that'll be a decision I'll have to make here pretty soon, because the lease is going to be up in 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So once they're out, I'm gonna be putting up for sale. But that'll be the next move, because the return on equity just isn't good. So.
Gotcha.
So how's that? Let's actually talk about that deal a little bit. Just to break it down, Phil. So I'm assuming is that one still under a regular VA loan, or did you have to refinance it into like a DSCR?
Yeah, so good question. Whenever we originally purchased those houses, obviously we're using VA loans, but when we 1031 them, And because they're being used as investments, which is another thing I should have mentioned, the 1031 has to be used as an investment. It can't be used as your personal. So because they're investment, they are under conventional loans, which obviously because I'm moving a fairly good amount of money across, I'm easily able to put the 20% down that a lender is going to require. So I don't have to pay the PMI, and I'm using a conventional loan. So that's how that works. And then, sorry, your second part of that question was?
Yeah, so I was just kind of wanting to kind of break it down. So, like, how much equity is trapped? Maybe what's the house worth? How much equity you have, and what's the cash flowing? Like, just basically the formula that made you figure out that you want to put that equity into another deal.
Yep, sure. So as the 69-second version of how the return on equity works, right? So if you get $300 a month for a house, $3,600 a year. That's well. If you have $40,000 in equity, I don't know what the math is. Maybe that's like 8 or 9%. Of return on equity. That's the equation. But if you're the same house, or if you're getting $300 a month, $3,600 a year, but now you have $60,000 in equity, obviously you're not getting as great of a return, right? So in this house specifically, we probably got about 180 to 200 in equity, and we're cash flowing about 1,100 a month, which is great. It's really nice, $1,100 a month on this one property. But you can see, if I can go walk away with 200,000, I can leverage that to go put 20% down on. That's 20% down on something that's worth $1 million, right?
Right.
So that's just how the game works. Now where it gets tricky is, and this is where everyone's going to be different, is, well, what am I comfortable? How much am I comfortable leveraging with? Am I going to use that to put 20% down and buy $1 million property, or that might stretch me thin, or am I going to go use that to put 30% down and put a little bit more equity into it, maybe make my monthly payments down lower? So this is where just people, it's just all about what people are comfortable with. So luckily, I have a good job where, real estate is just the side piece of it. And I have a military pension and a W-2 job that I do that pays pretty well. So I can afford to take a little bit more risk maybe than others. So that's kind of how that works. Did that explain it enough?
No. That was exactly what I was wanting. Exactly how I was wanting to see it. Because I think that makes total sense, and that's a great way to look at that. Because that is. I think that's a big part of a lot of Florida is that, because we do have a lot of really great, a little bit higher priced real estate. So it is harder to get the full cash flow, on some of it. So I think that was a great explanation of why you would reallocate those funds.
Yeah, and it'll be a kind of a leap of faith also, because it's it's been very easy to get people in and out of this house, and and typically, because, and this kind of goes into what complete separate topic, but because I do manage all the properties myself, I feel like landlording in itself is a customer service business as much as you see the bad landlords on TVs and in movies and online forums, but I do see it as I'm providing these people a service. So because of that, I try and be as good of a landlord as I can. I try and be very responsive if there's any kind of issues, because I do want them to stay, and in hopes that maybe they'll take care of the property a little bit more, and maybe they'll actually watch after it a little bit better. And also, when the time comes, maybe they'll be like, oh, you know what? Mike's actually a pretty good landlord. I think we'll stick around for another year or whatever. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
No, definitely. So with that, do you have a couple properties in mind that you're looking at?
To 1031? Yeah. So I'm looking down in southern Florida, right outside the Tampa area, some of the northern counties around there. That area is just aside from blowing away from hurricanes recently. It is just blowing up, and really the outskirts of that area, Tampa more specifically, is kind of where I'm looking at. My daughter, like I said, mentioned she goes to school down there, so I go down there quite a bit. I have a plane that I do fly back and forth to go see her, and whenever I see, just the top-down view of how the city is growing, it's it's like the early stages of the gold rush, the California gold rush. Like if you got to buy it now, I feel, because in 10 years it's going to be worth a lot more. So that's kind of how I see it. That's kind of the area I'm looking at. But as far as what specifically, I haven't quite gotten that far yet.
No, I got you. That's awesome. Now, are you looking to move down there permanently, or just start your portfolio down there investment wise?
No, we'll be moving down there permanently. My wife has already moved down there, so she got a job working
nice.
for she's working for the VA also, helping veterans with their claims and stuff. So she's already started. She's renting a place down there until I can come down there once my youngest finishes high school. So that's pretty much what we're waiting for. It's just summertime, and then we'll be moving down there. So
that's exciting. Awesome. Yeah. So that kind of wraps up what you were going to ask. What the next 12 months were, huh, Sam?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's kind of what that is.
So with that, it seems like a lot of changes, a lot of good things are happening. I mean, it seems like you're really kind of honing in on Tampa, but you also have such a great portfolio in the Panhandle too. What's the lifetime goal or the end goal kind of looking like, and what's that transition as your youngest finishes high school and your oldest is finishing college, and what does it look like for Mike and the family?
Yeah, right. Well, for the short term, after we get down there, I'm still going to continue to keep these five that I have now, and then we'll 1031 of them to buy something over there. And then I'm going to probably end up moving them, 1031ing them to buy more properties in South Florida or wherever we end up down there, just so I can be closer by. Not that that's it's that far from here. And it's in the plains probably about 3 hours or so for me to get from South Florida to here. So if I wanted to, I could always come back and look at them, look at the properties. But I think that'll be the end game goal, is just to keep migrating them closer to where we were, just like we did when the houses were in Arkansas and in South Carolina. Yeah. And what's great about it, like just for the guy or gal that's listening, that's kind of getting started, is I just want to foot stomp that we got into this with capitalizing that vehicle and not putting anything down. It was just using the VA and also a 1031. And like I said, we did have to pay for some of the renovations ourselves, but for the most part, it was just capitalizing on the benefits that the military gave us. So
yeah, man, I kind of want to ask this question, but if it is a little bit too personal, feel free to tell me, like, hey, you can't tell me that, but if you're willing to share it, I think it'd be good. So, because you just said, how you got started, no money down. What is the portfolio worth today, and what do you think your equity position is? And you can round it. You don't got to be exact, because I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. And again, tell me
if we're talking, it's okay. Are we talking about? Are we talking about our personal home, this home too?
Yeah. So just all your real estate together. What you think what do you think the equity is?
I probably should have this number offhand better, but if you're including our personal home here, it's probably maybe 2.1, and then with the rentals, it's maybe 1.7, I guess. This house is 1.6. So this one's probably worth about 500 now. So that's kind of how that works.
That's great. So over $2 million and worth of real estate started from VA benefits, no money out of pocket.
Yeah. Well, also note that maybe I should have started this whole conversation with this. I'm on the long term. This is a long term game. This didn't happen overnight, right? So this took the course of 20 years. However, I will say that it took me 20. I did 21 years in the Air Force, and the last few were in the reserves, but I did get a military pension. 20 years of active duty service is what I ended up with, right? Mm-hmm. My pension, I mean, you can Google it, what it is, but I retired as a major as an 04 at 20 years, and for that dollar amount that I get every month, comparatively to what we get cash flow every month, and we're talking about even after expenses and stuff like that. The amount that we make in our rentals is about 90%, 85 to 90% of what I make from my military pension. So what that means is that, it took me 20 years to obviously do both, But the difference is that, I mean, the rental portfolio, what we cash flow, is about the same as what the military gave me for my service, right? And what really differentiates is, number one, I got to pay taxes on my pension, right? So I have to, that comes out automatically. And then also, whenever I pass away, that will go away, right? Like, they're not going to keep paying my wife my military pension. When I died, the pension goes away, right? Versus on the real estate, the amount that we make is pretty much tax free because of all the deductions that we have, the interest that we pay, depreciation, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Also, whenever I die, I mean, it only is going to continue to grow, right? Appreciation right. Happen, loan pay down, the money keeps coming into my wife and my kids if I pass away. So
that was something I definitely wanted to add in, that's the rental income might be only 85-90%, but that's going to keep ticking up, every single year, with every $25, $50, $100 rent bump, that goes up. So
that's exactly right.
It probably, I would say if it's already right there, you're probably within like 2-3 years, you'll be equal or surpassing, and especially if you flip it into some better cash flow and properties.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And our pensions go up, I think based off of, whatever the yearly inflation or whatever the yearly pay raise is, 2-3%. I think it's been historically 3%. But you know how it is, man. Real estate over the past 20 years has gone up way more than that 3%. So just the appreciation alone has been better than the pay bump I'm going to get in my military pension. So depending however this next presidential election goes, but we'll see what effects that has on it. But it's just going to continue to get better.
Yeah, but outside of that, like maybe some of your colleagues that were you've known and retired that didn't do this same formula, you've essentially, if it's 80 or 90% doing on the higher end, you've almost doubled your pension, right, of what's coming into your family by just kind of following these, but also being creative, utilizing creative financing, VA opportunities with zero money down, and of course all the work that goes into that and being a good landlord and things. But now it's like you've doubled the amount of what you already had by using something that was available to you, which I think is really, really cool. That's
absolutely really cool. And that's another good point too. And that it's like getting two pensions, right? And right. And also understand that it's also based off of what I retired as, right? So I retired as an 04, which was a pretty good rank. But some of the younger, some of the enlisted guys that may not get as much of a pension, if they would have followed, obviously things could have been different, but if they would have kind of followed a similar path, it probably would be pretty easy for them to make more on their real estate than they would on their military pension, just because they may have retired at a slightly lower rank. So, they would be making more from real estate than military.
It's definitely easy to see how it's accomplished. And again, I still am like, mind blown about the size portfolio you built, even if it took 20 years, because the fact that you started with zero money out of pocket, that was infinite gains. So, I mean, like that's because it's totally different if, you start with $1 million and turn it into 10 million, you had $1 million to start, but starting from zero to grad, I mean, it's huge. And then when you add in how much cash flow you're earning on top of that each year, and then the continued appreciation, I mean, it's easy to see that it was one of the best decisions you've made.
Well, aside from marrying Cindy, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was probably the best one. The VA benefits there, and her being a team player, not worrying about the Joneses. I mean, all that's the winning combo. I think So, usually people have like a book, 2, maybe 3 that kind of inspired them to, help them get where they are. Or did you have any, books that you recommend to people to kind of, help you get to where you are today?
Yeah, especially for the, for the younger guys, especially that are in the military, that have access to this, because this is kind of where, even when I spoke, I was like, my briefing when I gave it was geared to mostly those guys, but the of course, Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, his is a classic. the book on rental properties by Brand Turner. That one's a great one. Those are good to get your foot in the door. And then for mindset, myself, I like Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. He's a retired Navy SEAL commander, and he just kind of takes everything is your fault, regardless. So once you start to keep that kind of mentality in whatever it is, obviously he's a military guy and he was a SEAL team commander, but even if you're doing it in business, and you keep that same personality, the same mentality, it makes you a more effective leader and it makes you more effective in business. So I've kind of like that, and that regardless of what happens within the family, within the walls of this house, as a family, as a father, or whether that has as a landlord or just investments, it's my fault, so that's taking that kind of mental aspect. So
yeah, no, that's I definitely like those three choices. Those have been mentioned before. I know they'll be mentioned again. Definitely, all three are great books. I'll probably double down with you on the Extreme Ownership one. It's a lot easier when everything's your fault, because if it's your fault, you can fix it and not make the same mistake again. When it's someone else's fault, you got to worry about fixing them.
Yeah, that's right.
So I prefer it when it's my fault. I'm easier to fix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was awesome. I really appreciate you hopping on with us today. What's some advice you would give to someone starting today if they wanted to do what you do? Outside of everything, what could they do today?
Okay. Yeah. I'll actually use an example that one of the students that I had, one of the students going through flight training, actually, he's doing it himself. And, mind you, I didn't know he was doing this. And we actually weren't chatting about this until he was out processing and, leaving. And he's a young guy. So he's a lieutenant, just finished getting his wings, and he just finished U-28 training. So with me. And he's going to his first duty station of New Mexico, which is where you said we don't want to go, right, Sam? So he don't have a choice, though. This is his first duty station. So while he was here in flight school, he even though he knew he was only going to be here for a year and a half, 2 years, he bought a 3-bed, 2-bath house right outside the gate, right? And then he had one of his other student buddies to help pay, and he rented the room out to him. So now he's leaving next month to Cannon, New Mexico, and he's already under contract to buy a duplex nearby the base. Once again, utilizing his remaining VA entitlements over there. So he's $300K to buy a single family home here, and then he's using here locally, I think it's like $750,000 in VA entitlements. But he's using the remaining, partial of the remaining, to buy a duplex in New Mexico, which you can see he's going to do the same thing. He's going to rent out one side and buy the other side, right? And mind you, this guy's only been in the military, for probably 2.5, 3 years now.
How old is he, do you think?
Well, we all have to have college degrees, so let's say 22, maybe 24, 5, maybe 24, 5.
Yeah, I love that. 25 years old, buying second property already. I didn't even get in my first one until I was 28. So that's amazing.
Yeah, dude. So he's already off to a great start just by leveraging and utilizing this VA loan. So I think the point to this is, don't keep up with the Joneses. Buy something that you can afford. Because even so, like we're using these VA loans to kind of spin around, but you still have to qualify. You still have to have a low DTI or a well enough DTI to qualify. So you buy something that's going to be marketable, something that's not too crazy. Buy something that's going to, at least in my case, I like to buy something near the base or someplace where there's more military around there. If you're driving through the neighborhood, you see a bunch of people in uniform. At least for me, I'm like, oh, okay, this is probably a pretty good spot, right? So that's how I kind of based it off of. But he's already off to a great start just by doing those two. And guess what? He's still got another. Even if he doesn't stay in for a full 20 and just stays in for 10, if he continues with this pace and just moving and buying, man, he's going to have more doors than I will in 10 years. So, I don't have that many. So, but he's off to a great start. So that's kind of what I would do, is just buy early. Buy something that's within your means, something that's easily rentable, marketable, and it's going to be in a good area. That's maybe based on obvious advice, but that's how I would do it.
It's good. That is golden advice. Definitely.
Perfect. So, man, well, thanks so much for hopping on. This is super awesome, and especially for our area, I know that this is just going to be a really, really great episode for so many people. And yeah, this was awesome. It was great to get to know you, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Likewise. Hopefully we can get together again sometime. If you guys are in the local area, we'll get together at a place property or something like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Where's a good place for people to reach out to you if they want to, shoot you a question on maybe social media or, ask you a little bit about your journey? Where should people go?
Yeah, so they can either, I got Instagram, Facebook. You should find it by Mike Ruiz. On Instagram, it's just the I is a 1, so M1 KERUIZ. And then if you can shoot me an email too. It's michael.ruiz6@gmail. So pretty simple.
Perfect. I'm actually, it's funny you're talking about NAS. I'm actually about to go have a dinner over at my Clean Eats over on Navy Blue, straight down from the base gate there. So
nice.
We definitely love our military people at our Clean Eats locations.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What's your favorite meal? What should I get when I go down there?
Man, I would say I have to give you my top 3. So it's the Southwest Bison Wrap, the Turkey Burnt-In Cuban, or our blackened salmon wrap. Those are my 3 current favorites. And I think I kind of touched it, depending on what your taste buds are. I gave one in every protein category there, fish, bison. So you got some good options. But hey, Will, where can people...
Shout out to Clean Eats though for our sponsor. I mean, always they allow us to get really cool guests and everything, like Mike and so many others, Albert, that connected us. So yeah, thanks. And if you guys haven't gone, definitely try Sam's top 3. I mean, he owns the place, so he probably knows what's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Hey, Will, where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, man, check out our website, eliterealestatepodcast.com. There's a form in there where you can contact us. You can also check out all the latest episodes. If you have a deal and you want to offload it, we can list it on there as well. And then you can always just ping me at elitereifl.wmcclelland, just like my name. And what about you, Sam? Where can we find you?
So yeah, go to my Instagram at Sam_FloridaMan. You can reach me there with a DM if you're looking at a deal or you want to get my opinion on it. I'd be happy to help. If you want to partner on a deal, that's even better. Definitely bring them my way. Will and I are especially looking for land deals in North Escambia County. So if anyone's in North Escambia County with a large parcel of land, we are definitely looking for that. Or just go to our website, theeliterealestatepodcast.com. I'm often at a Clean Eats location in the Panhandle, so stop in and see me. But hey, we had a great episode today. We definitely appreciate Mike coming on. He gave very relatable knowledge, very actionable knowledge, and I think everything he said was definitely great to help someone get started, especially if you're a young military member. I think this episode is really, really beneficial for those that are anybody in the military, but especially if you're young in the military. Because like Mike said, get started early, find a good spot, and don't keep up with the Joneses. And you should find success. So anyway, we appreciate everyone tuning in this episode, and we can't wait to see y'all next week.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.